First thing, if you're listening to this podcast episode, get honest, get real with yourself. At least acknowledge it. Don't BS yourself, right? So much of what our mind does is it just BS it. It's just full of, it just BSs us, tells us these stories that aren't even remotely true. Just get honest with yourself. Just say, hey, you know what? The reason I really want to make my boss happy isn't because hey, I want to raise or whatever. That's just BS. Just be honest. Just say, you know what? Because if I'm not accomplishing big things at work, then who am I? I feel like a nobody. I feel like nobody would really ever like me. People have to have a reason to like me. So I'm going to do this cool thing over here. I'm going to hit these goals, or I'm going to make my boss happy, or I'm going to have these massive goals. I'm going to earn this amount of money, whatever it is for you. Just be honest and say, I'm trying to do that because I just feel naked without it. I feel unimpressive without those accolades and accomplishments and benchmarks. Just be honest and have compassion for yourself in that statement. Welcome to the Lovecast with Jamal podcast. I am your host, Jamal Javanji. I'm a best-selling author, podcaster, full-time life coach, and a communications and cultural analyst. After spending over 20 years of working with people in various stages of struggle and challenge, and after traveling to many places all around the world, visiting many different cultures, I have discovered the common roots of human suffering, along with the sustainable solutions required to help people heal and become whole and liberated. This podcast is my gift to you to serve you on your journey into healing, wholeness, and liberation. I invite you to buckle in and to settle in to each episode here on this podcast. There's something for you in each conversation. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. So glad you're here. I hope you've been enjoying season 2 of the podcast of the Lovecast with Jamal podcast. This is, I believe, episode 9, if I'm not mistaken. And what I thought we would do today is we're going to do something a little different today. I do not have a guest. I actually just had something on my heart I wanted to talk about for a few minutes. My sense is that some of you, actually, I'm speaking directly to you if you're listening to this show. If you're listening to the show, this is definitely for you. I've just had something on my heart I wanted to talk to you personally about. And it's something that I think a lot of us at the back of our mind, at the unconscious level of our mind, we know it's been an issue. What I want to talk to you about today has been an issue, but we're just not really sure. It's almost too close to really see it clearly. And I wanted to take a few minutes to address something that so many people are affected by. And I want to just kind of bring it into the light. I want to bring it into the light because it really does affect. You may not think it does. What I'm going to talk to you about today affects the quality of your life on an hour by hour, day by day basis. And it really detracts from the quality and nature of your life. And it's almost so normal. People, when I say normal, it's not actually normal, but so many people are in these patterns that they don't even see life beyond it. And so life gets colored by these patterns. And the patterns are really trying to mask something. That's trying to cover up something. And most people are not conscious of this. So I want to talk today a little bit about alcohol, overeating, overexercising, and ambition. Right? I want to talk about these things: alcohol, overeating, overexercising, and ambition. It's really interesting. The reason I want to talk about this is because most people, these are just ways of life, right? Think about it for a moment. How many of us, and again, I'm not coming at this. I want you to know that I'm not coming to this conversation from a place of moral judgment of good or bad. This is right or wrong. That's not how I used to see life from that lens, and it was very costly. It actually did not help. I think people who live by good and evil and right and wrong and see the world through that very dualistic lens. They suffer. They live very unempowered lives. That would be a whole other conversation, by the way, if I address why that is. So that's not the subject of today's episode. I just want to let you know that I don't see the world from this vantage point of right and wrong, good versus evil, right? So I don't look at any of these behaviors, alcohol use, overeating, overexercising, ambition. I don't see it as being something right or wrong or good or bad. But what I would like to do is talk about it from a place of consciousness, because so many people, right? What do? Over time, a lot of people feel pressure. They feel pressure in life. So what do? You just have a few drinks. When you're out with friends, when you guys are hanging out, what do? When you're with people that you really just to let your hair down and just enjoy your time, isn't it natural to maybe have a glass of wine, have a few glasses of wine, have a few drinks, right? People do this a lot. And again, it's not wrong. And I'm not somebody that's against that. Every now and then I like to have a glass of wine and just, enjoy that with some people. I want to bring our attention to it at a greater detail, right? Because if you're being honest, if we just look at it, right, it's almost a pattern, right? If you're going to get together with certain people, and if you're listening to this, right, you know who those people are for you. Whenever you guys get together, somebody's popping the cork, somebody's opening a bottle, somebody's pouring a glass, and it's almost like this is just what we do, right? It's not even conscious. It's almost like this is just what we do. And if that's the case, I want to bring your attention to it. I'll talk about more of this in a bit. Let's move on to overeating. You ever struggled with overeating? What does it even mean to overeat? The relationship we have with food is a really interesting one. Many people, they just unconsciously will feel a tinge of hunger. They may open the refrigerator, may sit down and just start eating something. Again, nothing wrong. I'm not saying this from a place of guilt or shame, because that doesn't help anybody. But if you've ever overeaten, you know it. You can feel it in your body. You'll feel stuffed. You may feel a little sluggish. Your energy may be down a little bit. Maybe you'll feel guilty because you ate more than you needed to eat, more than your body felt comfortable with. So many of us, we just kind of routinely or regularly do it. We don't even know we're doing it. We just kind of naturally go to the kitchen, open the refrigerator, pull something out and eat it. But we don't really think too much about what we're doing. There's a difference between preparing a meal, putting it at the table, sitting down to eat it, enjoying it as you're eating it, like chewing the food, enjoying it. And then when you're done, feeling satiated and thankful, full of gratitude. That's a very big difference. When you treat food as if it's a gift, it's planned, it's purposeful, there's a time and place for it that you have created. You've created a meal. You created a time and space for it. That's a very, very different energy towards food than just putting something in your mouth, not really thinking too much about what you're putting in your mouth, and just kind of grazing or eating whenever, however. You didn't give too much thought. Maybe you're hungry, and then because of the hunger pains, you've actually just then are reacting. Maybe you eat some food that's not quite healthy for you. Maybe it's processed food. Maybe it's fast food, which is not really food. It's toxic for the body. So much of what you get out and about is cooked in a way that if you knew what was being, like the chemicals that were going into the food, the oils that they were being cooked in, that's a whole other conversation too, right? But if you knew what it was doing to your body, you would know. I'm convinced almost no one would choose it, because nobody chooses chronic disease. Nobody would choose the pain, the diminished life, the death that those foods, quote unquote foods, bring. Nobody would choose that. But the reason we're eating that is because we're not conscious. So we're in reactive patterns, right? So we're just, maybe feeling hungry and just grabbing whatever. It's very different energy than actually thinking about your meal, preparing your meal, sitting down to enjoy your meal, then feeling satiated. And when we're not doing that, we're typically overeating. And that may lead you to a reactive tendency of undereating also. I mentioned overeating in the title of this episode, but undereating and overeating, these are two sides of the same coin. It's an unconscious reactive pattern or behavior with food, okay? And maybe that's also the case with working out and exercise. Have you ever known somebody that just felt like something is wrong with my body, so therefore I need to get it into shape? I don't feel comfortable with the shape of my body. I don't feel comfortable with how my body is, so I need to go to the gym and fix it. Have you ever been that person? You ever fell into that tendency? If so, this is for you. How comfortable are you feeling with your body? How comfortable are you feeling with your body? If you're working out, over-exercising, because something's wrong with your body, you feel deeply down. I need to fix something. I need to get it into shape because something's off. It's a very toxic energy to be in with your body, okay? I just want to draw your attention to it. There's a lot of people out there listening to this podcast that have that kind of relationship with exercise. Again, nothing wrong with exercise. It's great. It's great to want to improve your body. It's great to want to build muscle. It's actually very important to do that. But why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? That's the real deeper question. I want to call your attention. The energy of planning to just love your body and build muscle and get movement in and get the blood flow happening is very different than needing to fix a broken body or a body that's quote unquote out of shape. That's a very different energy. And lastly, I want to talk about ambition, this thing called ambition. Are you ambitious? Do you feel just a strong need to accomplish, to make to-do lists, to get things done, to be productive? Do you feel that drive to be productive? Yeah. Again, is there anything wrong with having big goals and aspirations and dreams? Oh, not at all. I can tell you this. I have a lot of pretty big goals and dreams myself for the world, for my life. Yeah, for my company, for the things I do. I have a lot of goals and desires and dreams, but I'm not talking about looking forward to something or having these goals. I'm talking about the need to always be producing or accomplishing, the need to always be on, to be seen in a certain way as successful or accomplished or effective. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know anybody who's just so ambitious? They just can't relax. They always have to be doing, they have to be sending an email, creating something, doing something. They just can't relax. Do you know? And maybe you've been that way. If that's the case, I want you to listen in for the next few minutes, because I want to ask one question. And this is the whole podcast right here. I'm going to ask you one question. This entire episode is going to center around this one question, and how you answer it is going to determine what happens to you in your life. It's a pretty important question. You ready for it? Okay, here's the question. Ready for it? Here's what I want to ask you. I wrote this down. I'm going to look at exactly how I wrote it, because when I wrote the question down and I asked myself the question, I could feel the power of this question. And again, only you know the answer to this question. Nobody else can answer this for you. Only you know. But you're going to have to take some time and not just think about this at a surface level with your mind. You need to ask the question from your spirit, from the core of your being, and wait, get quiet, get into a quiet, introspective space, and allow your soul to answer the question, not your mind. And by soul, I mean I mean you're the immaterial dimension of you that maybe some people would call it the spirit, without parsing those words or getting into a conversation about the difference between soul and spirit. What I mean is the core of your essence, the part of you that is beyond the programming, the part of you that goes beyond the surface mind, that goes beyond just the casual, almost flippant way that you may think about this question. I want you to ask this question from the core of your being and create a silent, still place in your heart to listen. Because if you listen from this core, this depth that's within you, the answer, you'll see it. The answer to this question will come. And here's the question. You ready? I'm going to ask the question. Here's the question. What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through my connections and relationships? What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through my body? What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through my relationship with food? What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through my money and through my accomplishments? What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through my friends and my community? Think about that for a moment. What is it for you? What unmet need from your childhood are you actually trying to get met through your significant other, through your relationships, community, friends, through your money and accomplishments, through your food, just like why do you have this insatiable appetite to eat all the time? What are you trying to get met through just a few drinks of alcohol? What unmet childhood need? What unmet need from your childhood are you trying to get met through these behaviors? And you may initially think, well, I'm not trying to get anything met. It's just what I do. I just enjoy those. These are just what I do. If you ask the question from a place that's a little bit deeper than that, from the core, you'll see it. You'll see it. It'll come to you. I know so many people, and I can only speak from my own experience, but if I perform well, if I accomplish a lot of things, maybe then I'll be seen as successful. Maybe I'll make enough money and I'll be seen as successful and not a burden to other people. And maybe then I'll feel like I belong, that I'm connected, that I'm okay. It's okay for me to be here, right? So in that case, the unmet need from my childhood that I'm trying to get met is belonging, safety. So I'm using goals and accomplishments and ambition and people pleasing. Are you a people pleaser? Are you one of these people that you just want people to be proud of you and happy with your work, right? Because if so, the question is, what unmet need are you trying to get met through that behavior? So what if people approve of you? What does that mean? Oh, it means you're successful. It means somebody's proud of you. Well, typically what happens when someone's proud of you? Yeah, you get to be here. You get to be accepted. And ultimately, if that's the case, you get to be safe, right? Safe. See, the question, why are you overeating? What is it what's happening? Maybe you feel a little nervous. When you feel nervous or uncomfortable, or maybe you're feeling like nothing's going well for you, you feel stuck, you feel trapped, you feel frustrated. What do? If your tendency is to sit down and get something to eat and to eat food, well, why is that? What unmet need are you trying to get met from your childhood? Yeah, for so many people, and maybe you can relate with this, for so many people, they did not feel safe. Maybe you grew up in a family where you could overhear mom and dad screaming at each other, fighting. Maybe it was an unstable. Maybe one parent brought in a lot of other partners all the time. Maybe there was just instability. There wasn't enough money. Your family was going without. Whatever it may be for you, at some level, maybe you didn't feel safe as a child, and you learned to satiate that sense of not being safe with food. Maybe that's you. Yeah, maybe that's you. Maybe you were criticized a lot. Maybe no one said this to you directly. Maybe they did, but maybe you just overheard people talking, gossiping about how bad other people look, or how overweight a person may be, or how undesirable or unattractive another person is. And when you overheard people saying that, you took note of that, and then you interpreted that as, maybe I'm that way too. Maybe my body's not right. And maybe you got into a relationship with body and love-hate relationship with your body, that you just decided that you were going to kind of beat your body into submission and sculpt it through exercise because you didn't want to be seen the way the folks in your life that were critical saw other people. So what is it that you really want to feel? What unmet need is your relationship with exercise trying to meet for you? Today's episode is sponsored by Free to Love Corporate Solutions. Did you know that any company or organization is only as competent, capable, and responsive as its workforce? And did you also know that, nationally speaking, it's been estimated that stress costs companies up to $150 billion, B with a billion, $150 billion in lost productivity every single year. What if your company and your place of work could actually be a source of healing and transformation for its workforce? Well, believe it or not, there is a growing community of conscious companies and businesses that see it as their mission to be a place of healing and transformation, not just for the products that they're offering to the wider world, but also they really desire that their place of employment would be a culture of healing and transformation for the workforce itself. And I've had the opportunity to work with a number of small businesses that are just doing fantastic work in the world. And I would like you to hear from the founder and CEO of a company that is striving to make a difference, not only in the world, but also in the people that work for the company.
I own a real estate brokerage, BRA Realty, here in Pennsylvania, and we have about 110 realtors. Jamal came out a few weeks back and did a training in replace of one of our regular trainings, and the feedback was phenomenal. Really stuck with me was he created a space of safety for a conversation of transformation to take place, where not just did agents walk away with great tips and insight about what's driving them, but also the ability for them to actually take the time and work on themselves in that session, specifically around getting clear on what matters most to them, and to the point where we had multiple agents that were actually crying. I had multiple agents come up to me afterwards just saying it was one of the best trainings we've ever done, and that we should have Jamal back once a month. So just to give you a quick shout out, Jamal, you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your ongoing coaching with myself. I've been working with you now for over 3 months and have had really, really great results. I intend to stick with it, as there's always room for growth, and having someone like you in my corner has been really helpful. So I appreciate everything you do, and thanks for being you.
So if you're a small business owner, maybe you're on the executive team, you're a founder, a CEO, or even if you're just in management at some level at a company or in a corporate culture where you oversee people at any capacity, and if you're interested in having a conversation where we may be able to explore how our program can assist you, can assist your company, and assist your workforce. I'd love to have a conversation with you about that possibility. All you have to do is go to my website, jamaljavanji.com/corporate solutions. Again, that's jamaljavanji.com/corporate solutions. You'll be able to fill out a form there, and we will get back with you and set up a time to have a conversation with you about how we can assist you in transforming your company. Yeah, safety. You want to belong. You want to be seen. All of this boils down to safety. Why do people have a few drinks when they're hanging out with their friends? Oh, just to let off some steam? Maybe. But why? What is it? When people say, I'm just trying to let off some steam, why? What does that feel like? It feels like pressure. And when you feel under the gun, and when you feel pressure, guess what you don't feel? You don't feel safe. That's why we're trying to let off some pressure. So what do people do? Maybe smoke some marijuana, drink a few glasses of alcohol, whatever it may be. Kind of lets the pressure off. See, it's about safety. What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to meet through this behavior? Yeah, it's safety. Ultimately, it all boils down to safety. Permission to belong, permission to be seen as successful, permission to not be seen as a failure in some way. All of this boils down to, if I can be seen as successful, if I can be seen as worthy, if I can be seen, whatever it may be, ultimately, we have permission to belong and to be, because we are all longing to be accepted and seen and treasured from this place of being. We're all trying to get there. So these behaviors, overeating, alcohol use, substance use, when I say alcohol, I mean that in place of a myriad of substances that are numbing, right? To let the pressure off, to kind of take the edge off of life. See, life doesn't actually have an edge. What the edge that we feel, that pressure that we feel, is our story. It's the unmet need from our childhood that we're trying to get met. See, here's the thing. If you have an unmet, I want you to listen to this. This is super important. If you have an unmet need from your childhood, you will spend the rest of your life trying to meet that need until you get conscious about it. Let me repeat that. If you have an unconscious need from your childhood, you will spend the rest of your life trying to meet that unmet need. And if this is, obviously, we do this in unconsciousness. That's why the patterns of numbing through alcohol, substances, that's why overeating exists. That's why overexercising, ambition, love-hate relationship with your body, all of these things, that's why all of that exists, because you're trying to meet an unmet need from your childhood. And again, until we become very conscious about that, these patterns will just, they'll continue to have a hold on us in a very cyclical manner. So again, what do we do with this information? Well, I tell you what, there's a few things you can do. And obviously, the work I do as a life coach, we get under the hood and we dive a little bit deeper with that. And believe it or not, the folks that I have worked with have made tremendous progress. The folks who do stick with it, who stay with it, who go under the hood and dig deep enough, 100% of these folks that do the work, that keep digging, that don't give up on themselves, they become conscious about these patterns, and these patterns break. It's amazing what happens. People start to reform their relationship with their body. People reform their relationship with other people because they're no longer trying to get an unmet need from their childhood met. When you stop trying to meet this need from your childhood that did not get met, when you stop doing that, your relationship with food will change. Your relationship with other people will change. Your relationship with work will change dramatically because you're not trying to meet an unmet need. You're just doing your work in the world from a place of joy and lightness. It's radically different. See, we're all here to do work. We all have an important mission, things that we're here to do, things we want to do, things we desire to do. Guess what? When you operate from desire and you're not trying to meet, and I want you to hear this, when you operate from desire and you are no longer trying to meet an unmet need from your childhood, like significance, like safety, whatever it may be, then your work becomes light. What you do, life becomes light. What you do in the world is just creation. It's joy. There's a lightness to it. Doesn't mean there's not going to be challenges or problems. It just means life doesn't have this pressure with it that you're trying to always escape through overeating or drinking alcohol or using substances or beating your body into submission or chasing the next big goal or whatever it may be. You're not trying to do that. You're able to be with life from this place of grace, from this place of ease, from this place of lightness. You can enjoy it as the gift that it is. Life isn't something to get through as if it's a chore or a punishment. I speak in prisons regularly, and one of the things I tell the folks I'm speaking to in prisons, I say, we're all sentenced to life. When we're born, from birth, we were given a life sentence. Now, this is not a punishment, but so many people treat it as if it's punitive. It's a punishment, something that we have to make it through. We have to survive. We have to just get through it. People wouldn't say that consciously, but that's how we're spending our days, just trying to make it through the day, as if it's a curse. What's the alternative? Do you want death? Sadly, for many people, death is seen as an escape from the pressure cooker of life. Can I just tell you something? Life is a gift, and it's a gift from the source, and it is meant for you. And it's meant for you to enjoy from this place of ease and lightness. One of my favorite quotes from Jesus, right, from the New Testament, is he's even said that. He said, if you're really tired and weighed down and burdened, I'm paraphrasing here. He said, learn from me because, my yoke means union. It's the same word for yoga, by the way. It's a whole other conversation, but that's what it means. Union. Yoga means union. My union internally, it's what he's saying. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And if you're listening to this episode today, that is my overarching desire for you, that you will learn. Again, you have to learn. This is a process. It's not something you intellectually understand. And like, oh yeah, listen, I read a book about that, or I listened to a video, or I watched this whatever, or I listened to a podcast and I figured it out. That's not how it works. You have to learn. It's a process to learn. Like Jesus said, you have to learn. Learn from me is what he said. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. I just want to encourage you with this, that you can learn how to do this. I'm biased, but this is the work that I do. It's the work I have learned and am always learning to do. And it's also what I teach folks to do. And it's an important work. It's not overnight. It is a process. But for those who are committed to this work, I'm telling you, life can become light and easy, and it can become a gift. And then from that place, what can you do in the world? Oh, you can do just about anything you want to do. And that's not an overstatement. That's not hyperbolic. If you learn to live from the place of there's actually not a problem, it's actually light and easy today. If you can learn to create that as a baseline, well, you can do whatever you decide you want to do. But if you're just trying to make it through the day, you're trying to survive because you don't feel safe, if you're trying to meet a need through your work, if you're trying to meet a need through your relationships, if you're trying to meet a need through, your relationship with food, whatever it may be, your partner, your spouse, your whatever, if you're trying to meet an unmet need from your childhood to be seen and appreciated, to belong, to be safe, you are going to live a very hard life full of suffering. So what do you do? What do you do with this information? Well, first things first is we want to get conscious about it. Ask the question. First of all, you have to ask the question, right? What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through these behaviors, through my eating, overeating, through my overexercising, through my love-hate relationship with my body, through my ambition, through my relationship with my partner? What unmet need am I trying to get met and am frustrated that's not getting met? And you need to let that come to the surface. And when it does, I just want you to see that part of you with love and compassion. That's for starters. The first thing, if you're listening to this podcast episode, get honest, get real with yourself. At least acknowledge it. Don't BS yourself, right? So much of what our mind does is it just BS. It's just full of, it just BS's us. Tells us these stories that aren't even remotely true. Just get honest with yourself. Just say, hey, you know what? The reason I really want to make my boss happy isn't because hey, I want to raise or whatever. That's just BS. Just be honest. Just say, you know what? Because if I'm not accomplishing big things at work, then who am I? I feel like a nobody. I feel like nobody would really ever like me. People have to have a reason to like me. So I'm going to do this cool thing over here, or I'm going to hit these goals, or I'm going to make my boss happy, or I'm going to have these massive goals. I'm going to earn this amount of money, whatever it is for you. Just be honest and say, I'm trying to do that because I just feel naked without it. I feel unimpressive without those accolades and accomplishments and benchmarks. Just be honest and have compassion for yourself in that statement. Before you sit down to eat, if you feel a kind of longing to want to grab something and put it in your mouth to eat it, just before you do that, ask yourself the question, what is it that I want to feel, that I'm trying to get to use this food to make me feel? What unmet need that goes way back for me am I trying to feel right now? Before you eat, just ask the question. If you're truly hungry, then you can eat it. That's great. But if you're feeling frustrated, sad, stuck, bored, and you just go for the refrigerator to grab something, or you just go and grab something when you're out and about, something from a machine or something from a fast food place, just ask yourself this question: what unmet need am I trying to meet through this? And would I eat it with love and consciousness? Does my body need this right now? Just ask the question, what unmet need am I trying to get met? And just sit with it. And you know what? Hold compassion for yourself. And if you sit with it and have compassion and you still want to eat it, choose it. Okay, no problem. Do the same thing with alcohol when you're out with your friends, right? When you're out with your friends. You know what I do? Sometimes when I'm out with people, and this also works for not just alcohol and substances, it works for people holding up the cell phone, right? Right? Like when people, you ever been with somebody and they just hold their phone up and they're just kind of scrolling, or they're sitting down and they're distracted from being with you because they're on their phone? You know what I like to do? Is I like to either not bring my phone in or put it away completely and just sit there. Even when I'm with somebody and they're on their phone or they're distracted, I just sit there. And I feel what's coming up. It may feel a little awkward. Or maybe somebody's not talking and I'm not talking and I'm just there, I'm sitting. I like to sit in that awkward space and just feel it. And remind myself that I'm here, I'm showing up. And whatever I'm feeling is okay in this moment. But sit with it, learn to sit with it. Feel the tension that's coming up. Maybe you're tempted to just brag on yourself or talk about yourself in that moment. Maybe you're tempted to fill the silence with meaningless conversation. Maybe you're tempted to pull out your phone and start scrolling. Yeah, just sit with that and ask the question, what unmet need from my childhood am I wanting to get met right now? Maybe I'm feeling frustrated that somebody's not paying attention to me. They're on their device and I'm sitting here and they're not looking at me and they're not paying attention to me. Maybe that frustrates you. Okay, that's okay. You're allowed to be frustrated. Sit with it. Sit with it and ask yourself the question, what unmet need am I trying to get met right now in this moment? See, if you can do that, you're starting to unravel all that energy that is keeping you stuck and trapped. Trust me. One of the things I love to do, and again, I'm not a big fan of vegging, but I do like to actively not do something. So one of the things I do, especially on Saturdays in the fall, because I'm a huge college football fan, and there's so much judgment around just taking a day to do nothing, right? At least in the culture that I kind of come from and my neck of the woods, and some of this is my own programming. I kind of put this like, can you just take a day and do nothing? I'm not talking about vegging. I'm talking about doing what you want to do that doesn't accomplish anything, seemingly doesn't accomplish anything. See, I'm very much somebody who wants to create and accomplish and do and serve. And that's part of my work. And it's what I really enjoy. But, I will consciously take an entire day out of the week, Saturday, to do nothing. And sometimes I sit for many hours of the day watching football, and I consciously feel all the judgments that come up in the mind about, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be going for a walk or doing something that you didn't do during the week? Shouldn't you? It's like, no, I'm going to sit right here and feel what it's like to just be here. Because ultimately the question I want to get to is it safe for me to just enjoy my existence? Do I always have to be earning my way? Can I just be here right now and sit and enjoy what I'm watching, the sport that I really enjoy? Is that okay? And the answer is, it's all okay. It's all okay. It's okay for you to be here now. But we want to bring such conscious awareness into these dynamics, because our relationship with food, our relationship with work, our relationship with alcohol, our relationship with other people, these are often masks. They're often vices that are keeping us from really leaning into the truth that so many of us just don't feel safe. We don't feel okay. We feel naked and ashamed when we're not doing these things. We feel exposed and we feel lacking. And I just want you to know that if you feel naked and ashamed, exposed and lacking, that's okay. Doesn't make it true. But you definitely want to bring it into the conscious light of your awareness. You want to bring it right here into your awareness, and you don't want to just react to it by trying to mask it or medicate it or cover it up through these behaviors. I hope this makes sense. My sense that what I'm saying is connecting with some of you at a very deep level. And my sense is also that as you're listening to this episode, there are other people who's come to mind for you that you think may be served by this conversation. This is the start of a conversation. This is definitely it's not an end all fix all to these, but first step, if any conscious work that I do as a coach, first step we always are doing is we want to get conscious. We want to become aware of the pattern. So it always starts with awareness. Without awareness, you're in the dark. Without awareness, you can't shape your life or direct it in the way you want it to go. With no awareness, you can only react and stay stuck in these very limiting patterns. So step one is always increased awareness. And that's the purpose of this episode, is to have increased awareness. So if you are listening to this and somebody comes to mind that you feel like could benefit from this conversation, let me invite you to send it to them. Send a link to them. It's important, this conversation. What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met through this person, through these people, through my relationship with work, through my blah, 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 you name it, through my ambition, through my relationship with my body, with food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What unmet need from my childhood am I trying to get met? And I want you to allow yourself to get clear about that. Answer the question for yourself. And then learn to sit with compassion with yourself before you choose to move forward with the food, with the exercise. Again, nothing wrong with eating, nothing wrong with exercise, nothing wrong with having goals and desires to accomplish. Before you move into it, do it from this place of awareness. Because if you don't get conscious about this, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to meet an unmet need from one of these external factors, and you will never get there because you cannot meet. I want you to hear this. It is impossible to meet internal unmet needs from our childhood through external means. It doesn't work. Only you can meet that need from within. I know that sounds cliche. I know a lot of people say that. It's really important you learn what that means. Because that's the key to creating the life on your terms, to creating the kind of life that is light and easy and abundant. I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps. If this episode obviously has spoken to you, please, always enjoy hearing from the listeners. Love to hear how it has spoken to you specifically. You can send me email. My email is Jamal@jamaljavanji.com. If you go to my website, jamaljavanji.com, you can contact me there. I'd love to hear from you, how this may have spoken to you. If you feel like a friend could benefit from this, please feel free to pass it on to them as well. And until next time, take care. Thank you so much for listening all the way through to the end of this podcast episode. When you show up and you receive the gift that was for you in this episode, it not only benefits you, it benefits all those that you love and the wider world around us. This work that you're doing, the hunger that you have, it's so important, and I commend you for tuning in and being open. If this podcast has been a blessing to you, then I would ask that you do something to give back to this episode, to give back to this podcast. One of the things that you can do, and it's cost-free, very easy, and is super helpful, is if you'll just go to iTunes and rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Also, if you'll go to Spotify, if you listen on Spotify, go to Spotify and rate and review this podcast on Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference in the algorithm, and it helps people find our show. Thank you again for being here. And until next time, take care.